Hello and welcome to ARW Weekly, sponsored by painsolutionslim.co.uk. I'm Phil. Joining me tonight is Craig, Jay, and we've got a new boy on board, Asif. Welcome, Asif. How you doing, mate?
Very well, mate. Thank you for having me on.
More than welcome, buddy. We'll see if you thank us at the end. Lads, let's jump straight into it. It's been a massive 24 hours for Liverpool Football Club. I think most of us are still knackered. But let's start with the draw. Champions League, baby. What do we think?
It's not too bad. To be fair, it could have been a lot worse, Phil, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I see. If we were talking about this earlier, mate, weren't we? What a couple of the groups we desperately wanted to avoid as that very painfully slow draw was being announced.
Oh, mate, I was actually watching it with my daughter, and she was, I think it was 50-50 in the end, wasn't it, between Group E and Group H? Because I think those were the two that were left, and we were just shouting E at the telly.
Yeah.
And not that she knew what she was talking about, but E it was. So, and then poor old Spurs got the.
Well, I was going to say, thank God E it was. So, for those of you that haven't seen the draw, for a start, where the hell have you been? For another thing, Group H that we're talking about is Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Spurs, lol at Spurs all day long. And how are we pronouncing this one? Is it Apoel?
Apoel.
Apoel Nicosia, isn't it?
There you go. Show off. So there we go. Jay, what do you think, mate? I mean, obviously Group H was one we wanted to avoid. Any others that you were just screaming at the TV? Please God, not that one.
Well, funny story. I was actually busy with my soccer kids coaching. I've got an under 11 group that we coach in. And at 6 o'clock, they're saying, Coach, when's the draw? So we say, obviously, 6 o'clock South African time.
Yeah.
So we said, they're saying it's at 6 o'clock. So they're like, check your phone. So I stopped the training session, checked the phone. And by 6:15, 6:30, this thing just dragging on. And eventually, we just got the final groups at, I think it was about 7 o'clock our time. And I just saw our group and I just screamed for joy. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So obviously all the kids, we've got different supporters in there. And there's a few Man City and a few Spurs supporters in there. And they're just, sorry guys, but I'm not worried about you. I'm loving our group.
That's it. Yeah, sorry guys. You're going to have to glory hunt someone else this season.
That's it.
No, Craig, I mean, that draw, I mean, look, we'll go on to the results of that in a second and who's playing who, but do they have to make it so painfully slow? Is that completely necessary?
Yeah, it was. It was like pulling teeth, wasn't it? And then having to look at Ronaldo's smug fucking face as well just made it all worse. And now, look, don't get me wrong. I'm all for bringing Gigi Buffon on stage.
Oh, yes.
The man deserves that. And Totti was looking suave as fuck as well. Gotta love Totti, but Modric, Ronaldo, it was just as dull as dishwater, wasn't it? It seemed to go on. And especially the gap in between pot 2 and pot 3 was horrendous. When we were waiting for Liverpool's pot to be drawn. Yeah, it was tough going, but look, it was just a pleasure to be involved in the draw game, wasn't it?
Oh, thank God we're back. I mean, I was at Anfield yesterday and probably all my voice is so gruff today, but I'd say the first half an hour of the first half felt like Anfield of old. It was bouncing. It was absolutely rocking. And the team, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? Chicken and egg. Did the team respond because the crowd were on form, or were the crowd on form because the team were playing well? Either way, the result's the same, and it produced a magical night. So, yeah, I think.
Sorry, mate. When do you remember a last fast start like that? So I remember tweeting about it all last year. Like, I don't know, just under Klopp, we just don't have these electric fast starts that we used to have under Rodgers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember about 4-0 up or something silly in the first 20 odd minutes. Yesterday was probably the first time at home under Klopp. For the first 20 minutes, it's just been. You just threw the kitchen sink, like you say, chicken and egg.
You know what?
The fans on board and vice versa. It's just something that I've personally been screaming out for a while, and it was actually good to see it yesterday.
I've been 100%. The very same, Asif, and I'm glad somebody else said it because I used to be the exact same, especially with Rodgers. We used to go out and kill teams sometimes in that first 25, 30 minutes, and even at the start on the clock, we were intense. But then we seem to have dropped off over the past 6 to 9 months, and I agree with you 100%. It was great to see them come out of the blocks like that last night.
Now, Klopp is quite an emotive guy, isn't he? So the question with that is, did he come out, was that a tactical thing? Did he come out and think that that's what he needed to do because it's the Champions League? Was it because the lead wasn't big enough? Or I actually started to think, given how emotive Klopp is and how he clearly wears his heart on his sleeve, whether the opposition manager's comments had actually got to him in the build-up in the days before.
He's a smug cunt, isn't he?
He's a cocky bastard. But the comments that he had riled me up before the game, thinking, who the hell do you think you are? Part of me wonders whether Klopp had that mentality and went, is that what you think you're going to do? Is that you cheeky little shit will blow you away in the first 15 minutes?
I think even if he didn't, I think he probably had a little laugh and thought that's my team talk done. Because I think the last guy did that was the Villarreal manager or something. I think.
That went really well as well.
And that went really well as well. So as soon as he said that after the game, I actually had a big smile on my face, thinking, "Thank you, mate. That's it. Job done." So,
I was desperate to hear his comments after the game, and he didn't speak to PT.
He threw his players under the bus, from what I read. Anyway, I think he said that they ran around like headless chickens and they didn't follow his tactical instructions.
There was one good quote from him though, Phil. To be fair, somebody, I can't remember the sports channel, but somebody said in the press conference, so how did you feel after 15 or 20 minutes? And he just turned around and said, I thought to myself, this could be going better.
That's pretty. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty funny. No, do you know? I was looking at some of the fixtures that were coming out of this and some of these groups that were announced earlier today, and I can't have been the only one that not only laughed at a couple of our competitors in there, our English competitors, that is. I did have a bit of a chuckle. I was a bit disappointed we didn't get Celtic. I would have really liked Celtic. I think that would have been an awesome game. Great atmosphere. But I mean, some of these fixtures are tasty. So you got a Barcelona Juventus game, City Napoli, Madrid Dortmund, United playing nobody important as usual.
Oh, that's fucking sick to death of that, by the way. It's never fucking ending. They get into the Europa League and they get the easiest Europa League in the history of the world. Then they get into the Champions League and they get the poxiest group again. Benfica, Basel and fucking CSKA Moscow. Well, fuck off. That's the Europa League group.
But didn't they have Benfica and Basel last time and they got knocked out? Can't see it happening this time, but the last time they got knocked out in the group stages was when they had Benfica and Basel with them. But yeah, jammy fuckers.
Just while we're on the scum, because it's got to be said, was I the only one who had a bit of a chuckle to myself about the fact that they brought back an old man that they released at the end of last season?
And thought rest in peace.
Well, yeah, they're trying to polish a turd and telling them it's Christmas. I mean, what is all that about?
Mate, I feel for Rashford and Martial, to be fair. Yeah. Well,
I don't feel for any United player ever.
I thought it was a little bit different. I thought it was a wages thing, to be honest. I thought they were just being miserable cunts saving his wages for the few months he wasn't contracted to them. Surely
they're going to have to pay him a signing on fee anyway. So what's the difference?
Yeah, it's a fair point, and Asif made a damn fair point about Rashford, Martial. I'd be well out of place if I was them. I'd be pretty pissed off.
Well, mate, we're all assuming here that they've actually got brain cells in Manchester, so that's a bit of a jump. That's a bit of a jump in itself. So
that is a massive assumption to make. Yeah, absolutely.
It is a huge assumption, mate.
Some of the other groups are they're not as hectic. I think Group G probably the only. I mean, Besiktas aren't a bad side, but I think the tasty fixture in there is for me is actually Porto and Leipzig. I know Monaco and they're a bit hit and miss for me. Depends what team turns up, but I think that Leipzig Porto game will be pretty tasty. I think there'll probably be a few cards in there as well along the way, so I can imagine a few bookie specials coming up.
It depends if their number 8 is playing for them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's hope he's not.
Don't you mean our number 8?
I certainly will fucking hope so, but I guess we'll find out this time next week. Eh?
In fact, that was another one. Like when I saw their name, I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna come with us, aren't they? We're gonna have to play them.
Well, just imagine if we'd got a group of that had Leipzig and Barcelona in there. That would have been tasty.
It would. Yeah, absolutely would. I'm looking forward. I've got to be honest. I'm looking forward to seeing if Diego Costa tries to hide in Madrid when Chelsea travel over to play Atletico. I have a feeling he's just going to try and go on strike and just not leave. He's just going to lose his passport while he's over there or something.
Oh, mate, you never know with that nutter. He'll probably, I don't know, pretend to make peace with Chelsea, sit on the bench when Atletico score, just stand in front of Conte and give him the bird or something. You never know.
He's
He's a nutcase.
He'll probably grab onto Simeone's leg and won't let go.
Probably.
I think that's how he got the move in the first place.
Do you know what though, guys? Can I ask all of you? Was there any part of you that was, whilst we all went, oh phew, that's a grand group actually, was there any disappointment that we didn't at least get one of the big sides?
Mate, I was just going to say exactly that.
No.
I'm actually with you on that one, mate. I was just thinking that and just going to say exactly the same thing. Feel slightly left out that we haven't got one of these super fixtures sort of thing. I mean, Sevilla, but, you know, we haven't got the trip to the new camp or, you know, Bernabeu or whatever.
Next round.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Next round.
Because we do play. It was like with the qualifying draw. I was actually happy that we got Hoffenheim because we played better. We played better against better teams, or better against teams that, you know, try to play football. You know, you get somebody like, I don't know, Maribor or whatever else. We probably struggle more against them than we will against Sevilla.
Well, that's the irony, isn't it? Because Sevilla and Spartak Moscow, you're almost pretty confident about, but Maribor you think could actually be the banana skin, which is mental. But it's just the way Liverpool have been forever. You almost like first leg and stuff of fixtures used to drive me mad because it was almost like we didn't turn up because we were expecting, well, it doesn't matter what your score is going to be because we'll beat you at Anfield. I mean, how many Liverpool fans must have had some sort of cardiac arrest or something watching Liverpool over the years, particularly in the Champions League. I dread to think. I mean, the Borussia Dortmund game a couple of years ago nearly killed me. I nearly died. Seriously. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if my heart would have packed in. Why do we insist on doing it to ourselves?
It's $1 million question, man. Even yesterday, it was that. Well, you thought at 3-0 we could relax. Then but then you had Lovren being Lovren, and then it was if they had got another one after that, you'd have thought, holy shit, here we go again, sort of thing.
It's that adrenaline that keeps you alive, though, lads, isn't it? It's that being on edge and not knowing. Like, we could be 3-0 up and we still feel there. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had a pretty big bet on yesterday, and when we went 3-0 up, I thought to myself, you know what, we're still capable of fucking this up.
Yeah. Well, I remember tweeting after the Watford game. Liverpool Football Club, well, basically, welcome back to the world's most gut-wrenching roller coaster, because that's what it is. It's just up, down, roundabout. There's nothing ever steady with Liverpool, not in any sense. But that's the way we love it. That's the way we love it.
Really wanted to crack a Paris Saint-Germain, by the way, Phil.
That would have been awesome. I just get Emre Can to absolutely smash Neymar. It would have been hilarious.
Just get Coutinho to smash him
in the shin.
Yeah. Call yourself a mate, bang, take that, you prick.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of thrown him under the bus a little bit, which I'm finding quite funny.
Did you hear that PSG went in for Seri just to up the price for Barcelona?
Yep, I heard that. That was hilarious.
That's funny.
Apparently all this came about because PSG representatives weren't happy with how senior Barcelona officials acted after that victory at the Nou Camp last year. They felt very disrespected. And apparently this was a ruse to say, like, fuck you, Barcelona. We're going to just take your best player.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think
can't we have owners like that?
Oh, mate, don't get me started on them. But yeah, no, on that Barcelona thing, I mean, it's funny how karma can be a bitch, because they tried to tap up Verratti, I think, by all accounts. And I think PSG then thought, well, fuck you. And yeah, the rest, as I say, is history. And now Barcelona are tapping up everybody left, right, and centre and can't seemingly sign anyone for shit. I don't know if they've signed Dembele or not, but they certainly haven't made life easy.
Have they found them yet? Has anybody found him?
They really know where he is.
That were Barca sponsored by Qatar though at one point? Qatari Airways.
Yeah.
And then so there's probably a few reasons there why the Qataris aren't very happy with Barcelona.
Mate, probably 1,000,001 reasons, but what Barcelona have done, they've completely ruined. I mean, I'll be honest, they were my second team. I love Messi. I think he's arguably the greatest that's ever played the game. But
is Messi your second team?
Messi, Messi FC, yeah. But at the end of the day, they are ruining their reputation. I mean, like, even the bids, the timing of the bids, they've got no respect. I mean,
embarrassing, isn't it?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know how many European Cups they've got. Is it 5 or 6? But I mean, a 5-time European champion, show some fucking respect. You know, on the eve of the season, on the eve of the Champions League game, they did the same to Nice. You know what they're doing to Dortmund. It's just like, well, oh mate, I think one of the big accounts on Twitter had to apologise.
Yeah, I saw that.
which was interesting.
It's
It was
shocking.
almost FSG-esque. They were all issuing apologies.
It's shocking planning from their board, though, for the future. Like, regardless of what happened with Neymar, they have not looked past the fact that their players are aging. They really have just... I wouldn't be happy if I was a Barcelona supporter at all.
It's arrogance, though, isn't it? I think that's the thing. I mean, I've heard things about how Liverpool conduct transfers that were disappointing to hear, but Barcelona have just taken the prize this summer. Just the way that they're going about things. But what I am quite liking, if I'm honest, I mean, it does sound like Borussia are about to give in, but most teams have just told them where to go, and I like that. So they're trying all this underhand stuff, and they're trying to be sneaky, and they're putting the boot in the dark and all that kind of stuff. But it's still not working for them. I mean, who have they signed? Paulinho for like 40 million that nobody wanted. Exactly.
I can't even do fucking 5 keepy uppies.
That was embarrassing.
I could have sworn that you just said Liverpool are negotiating transfers there, so I just had to pick myself up. I had to pick myself up off the floor there.
Well, we occasionally go for a coffee with other clubs. I think that's about as far as it goes.
And
to be fair, though, it's getting to the point this summer where money is of no object. Like, everyone's just gone, 110 million, nah, we don't need that, fuck off. 120 million, nope, don't need it, fuck off.
I remember when we signed Stan Collymore for 8.5, and I thought, fuck, that was quite a bit of money. It's gone.
I think we needed to work with the Echo to start releasing stories to come out and say that Lovren's our best player, and we'd be crushed if he left, and just leave that newspaper in Barcelona, just see what happens.
You know what? He'd probably be a fucking superstar at Barcelona, though.
I mean,
it's typical of our luck, wouldn't it?
It would. Like, he'd probably suit that style of play down to the fucking ground, walking out from the back with the ball. That would be totally Lovren.
Lovren in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to send them Moreno. That's what we need to do. Although, to be fair, his overlapping runs last night were sensational with Mane down the left.
Yeah.
Well, I think for certain games at home, I think he could... I can't even believe I'm saying it. He could actually be quite useful. If he plays like he did yesterday, because he gives you that overlap. I mean, it's he just can't defend, can he? At all. At all. I mean, he's the reason we...
I was going to say, it's one of the key components of his role, really, is to defend as a defender.
Well, I'm not trying to be funny. He's the reason we're not in the Champions League, or we weren't in the Champions League already. That stupid. He thought he was playing for Sevilla in that Europa final.
He was horrendous, wasn't he?
He was absolutely shocking. I mean, even against Watford. I mean, I just don't understand how anyone ever thinks that he's even a left back.
No. I was saying the other day, if you were going to play Robertson at the back or something, I'd even consider taking Mane off at some point and throwing Moreno on to just sit on that wing, because he'd actually do a half-decent job closing out a game. Because he'll run and he'll put the ball in. He just won't get back and defend, which is what he's paid to do.
I think why Klopp's playing him, I think because Klopp, if you remember his Dortmund team, a lot of it is about pace. You know, just out and out pace. And last year we struggled when Mane wasn't there, because he was the only option. I mean, you can't include Sturridge in that anymore, because frankly that boy can't run anymore. But then,
anymore?
Anymore? What? He's definitely lost his pace anyway. But if you think about it, Moreno, then you had Mane, you got Salah now as well on the other side. You know, Trent on the other side. There is more of an injection than there was last year. Again, like I say, you worry though is when we lose that pace, we can't break the lines anymore, which is what happened all last January and February. And you know, literally, I think there was a point last January where I thought my local team could beat Liverpool. You know, just two banks of 4, they ain't going to get through us. So it's that fine line. You can see why he's playing Moreno though, and yesterday he was proved right, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he put in a shift. He made a couple of mistakes, but thankfully none of them led to a goal. But actually, you're right. He did look pretty sharp going forward. Jay, that kind of brings me quite nicely onto something I wanted to talk about actually, which was there were some comments from Klopp which we'll go on to in a short while. But the upshot of it was it sounded like there's going to be more signings now. Champions League football is confirmed. Is that what you read from that, or was that just wishful thinking on my part?
That's what I was hoping. Well, I'm going to go on the thing from hoping. We need players. The squad cannot cope with the volume of fixtures that we're going to have coming in. If we're looking now at the next month of September, we've got 6 fixtures coming up in September in about 17 days. So that's like every 3 days we've got a fixture. And I don't know. Do we have the players for rotation? Yes, we do, but it's the quality of the players. So for the left back, for instance, so we got Moreno and we got Robertson. I think maybe Klopp's thinking is Moreno could be his European player, so play him in the European ties, and Robertson more keep him for the Premier League, and obviously more the local ties and that. But definitely, yeah, I'm hoping that in the next 7 days we have a few transfers coming in. Ideally, I'd like at least 2 or 3. That would be great. Let's see what it holds.
Who would you like to see, Jay? Who do you think is from the players we've been linked with? Who do you want through the door?
If I had to choose one player, it would be Virgil van Dijk. If it was just here's one player, it would be Virgil van Dijk. I'd be happy with that. If we get Virgil van Dijk and a centre midfielder, I'd be happy, great with that. And obviously, I think we don't know where we stand on full Coutinho, but I think he's staying for now. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think we'll get one more year out of him. Asif, what do you think about Keita? Is he that central midfielder, or have you got someone else you got your eye on?
Well, I don't think that there is anybody else, which is part of Liverpool's problem, isn't it, really? Because there seems to be all your eggs in one or two baskets, which I think is actually a criticism of Klopp, which I don't actually. I'm not really one to criticize him because I actually love the guy. But I mean, just to have Van Dijk as he's the only centre back on the face of this earth that's better than Lovren. I mean, like really. And then Naby Keita, he's a sensational player, but surely there's got to be a plan B. There has to be a plan B, but there doesn't appear to have been. Now the thing is, we don't actually know what goes on behind the scenes. And like I said, there are a lot of theories out there, and I was actually told before I came on here to be careful of you guys because you guys love FSG apparently. And
yes, don't fucking get us started on this FSG in versus FSG out. Absolute bollocks. This is where we stand on FSG. We don't give a fuck about FSG. We don't care FSG in, FSG out. We don't give a fuck. We want Liverpool to do well. So my personal point is, if they don't cough up by the 31st of August, then it's not good enough, and I will have jumped ship. I am not, and we are not FSG in. So please don't like, we're not FSG in or FSG. We're pro Liverpool. That's it.
Well, it's funny thing. I wrote an article quite recently on my Twitter page, TikTok, and everyone's had me as FSG out. To be fair, it's exactly the same as what you're just saying there. And I think a lot of the majority of fans are exactly that as well. It's not FSG in, it's not FSG out, it's Liverpool fucking in.
It's not as black and white as that. It's exactly that. It's not as black and white as I want them as our owners or I don't. I've made no secret about the fact that I don't like them. I don't like them because of the way they're running Liverpool Football Club. If you start running Liverpool Football Club differently, I'll give you all the backing in the world and support you. I'm not just going to dislike you for no reason. Do the right thing by my club and I'll support you.
Exactly, which is, like you said, a very important week ahead. Because under them, I mean, the facts are the facts, really. How many big deals have there been that all of a sudden are leaked to the media a day before or whatever? And it's just eat, sleep, repeat.
I read that article, and I have to say, it's one of the better articles I've read, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't just, fuck you, get out, we don't want you here. I really enjoyed reading it, mate, so congrats.
Let's rent a plane.
Congrats on the article, it was really enjoyable.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I mean, literally, that came about after the Watford game. Me sitting on my iPhone, frustrated as fuck, and I thought, I just fancy writing again now. And to be fair, like I say, it's exactly like you boys. We love the club. You run our club well, there's no problem whatsoever. If you think that we're idiots, we're not. Because after a while, you see through this shit. It's just happened so often. I mean, even this Virgil van Dijk thing. I mean, he's on the face of it, he's chosen us over City and Chelsea, which is a huge coup. When was the last time we could even say that? Yet somebody then decides to leak something to the media, which potentially kills the deal. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen yet. But, I mean, even that itself is just weird. It's like someone there thought, oh, shit, we've got to pay £60 million now.
We can't spend this money.
He chose us. And it's just like, and it just beggars belief. And they keep on doing it and keep on doing it. Like I say, it's not FSG in, it's not FSG out. It's just, don't treat us like idiots because, it says they just keep on doing it. It just frustrates. Because Keita and Van Dijk should not be a dream right now. We should really have both of them on board and have one hell of a fucking first team and ultimately squad. But the fact that we're thinking that it's even a dream, it just shows how much they've watered down so many expectations.
Well, it's how far we've fallen, isn't it? I think that's the problem. But when you see certain clubs linked with big name players, some of them not even going for that much money, and you're thinking, where the hell were we on that? Why are we nowhere near this?
Exactly. And then when we sell our players, it's like we sell them for next to fucking nothing. It's really, really strange. And I think, something's not right there. I mean, too many clubs don't like us. Like you said earlier, you've heard stuff about our transfer dealings and how we negotiate ourselves in boardrooms or whatever. It's something's not right because too many clubs don't like us.
No, you're right.
It can't be a coincidence that they don't want to sell to us. The next minute they sell to somebody else. Okay, Southampton. That dude in Russia, apparently, the Konoplyanka nonsense where Ian here turned.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and that stuff, and it's all these other clubs that you hear that just don't fucking like us. But why?
No,
why?
very.
I mean, from what I've gathered from a few people telling me things is, we go into the boardroom and we try, and we are very, very disrespectful.
I've heard exactly the same, mate. Actually, I've heard very, very similar. That there's almost like a level of almost Barcelona-esque arrogance, like they're behaving at the moment. We go in and we sort of demand how this is going to go, not realizing that actually this is their host club. They've got a contract with this club. If somebody walked into our boardroom and spoke to us like that, we'd tell them to piss off. So why do we think it's any different?
Well, I think the theory that some say is, that is part of their actual ploy. They actually go in there, think, we're going to try to close this deal for our manager. Go in there, act like arrogant pricks, and think, when they get kicked out of the boardroom, well, the argument from some is, well, that's part of the game. Mm-hmm. It's just so sad that there is such a big distrust between fans, or majority of fans, I don't know, and the owners. Because it's just such a shame after Hicks and Gillette. Because I think lots and lots of people saw them as very good owners, steady owners. It's just window after window. They just
disappointing.
It is. I mean, look back to the Luis Suarez thing, and I'm digressing somewhat. But I mean, we knew he was leaving. You have 6 or 7 months after he signed that contract in December, whenever it was. Yet we leave it until the last fucking week of the window to give Rodgers a choice of Balotelli or Grandfather Eto'o. It smacks of this. You had the Champions League money. There was a new TV deal at that time. Yeah,
there's been a few weird transfers like that. I mean, the one that sticks in my memory was we did Andy Carroll on the last minute of a transfer window. Balotelli just seemed to kind of arrive because we needed somebody. He never really fit into Rodgers' squad. Now I'm a Balotelli fan. I've made no secret of that. I think the guy's entertaining as well as a decent footballer. He's definitely never boring. But I think he never really fit, did he? It was like Rodgers never really wanted him. I mean, Craig, do you think there's another couple of weird transfers on the horizon? Do you think FSG are going to go out without a fight? I mean, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
I want to sum this up properly, so I've been kind of sitting here trying to think about how I can get my views of the owners across. So this is how I view things. I have no problem with anybody coming in and buying an asset and increasing the value of that asset and selling on that asset. To me, that's no problem whatsoever. If they want to come in, strengthen the club, fix the infrastructure and sell us, great. I've no problem with that. It's the things that Asif was bringing up there that I do have problems with. I do have problems with them fucking around other clubs in the boardroom. I do have problems with them. They do have a PR machine that they do. They do leak things out and they do fool fans to a degree and they do get our hopes up and then something drastic happens and it's not our fault, we tried. None of us can deny that happens and it's getting more and more frustrating. The thing about Van Dijk that pissed me off the most was that Chelsea met with Van Dijk and I believe Man City met with Van Dijk as well. But the fuss was only around Liverpool meeting with him, which is ridiculous. Now, I've heard as well from other people that FSG have at times with players agreed something in principle and then moved the goalposts when it comes time to come in and sign the contracts. So that type of behaviour is absolutely disrespectful and is ruining the reputation of the club, a reputation that they claim to want to protect so much, which is why they put out the statement about Van Dijk saying, we're so sorry.
Passionate about it, yeah.
Exactly. So there's certain things that don't add up. I'm very open to that suggestion. I just feel, until this transfer window, I was on the fence. I was 6 out of 10 about their ownership. I thought some things they could do better, some things they've done okay. But I've been very clear that they had until August 31st with me to prove that they were going to back the manager. And so far, they haven't. They bought Salah, who's been a fantastic buy. Really good buy and really good value in this window. Look, Robertson is Robertson. It is what it is. It's a cheap enough buy. And Solanke could be a great purchase. But if they do not go out and get the two main players, as Asif said, that we've been linked with all window, then for me something is drastically wrong. And my doubts will have surfaced a lot about FSG as owners. So that's where I am.
It's kind of crystal clear there as well that both players want to come to Liverpool.
Yeah,
and both are players that we desperately need. Both are players that ultimately you'd think that we can afford with all this Champions League money or whatever else coming in. So something is very wrong that we cannot close those deals. There's no other way about that. It just doesn't make sense.
Phil, you should probably add at this point that you're not anti-American.
I'm not anti-American. I'm not anti anybody this evening. I'm alright about my meds.
We're just anti-Manchester.
Well, that's just a given.
I've actually enjoyed this conversation about the ownership group because it's been one of the, I won't say better informed conversations, but I've certainly, the points have been valid from all sides, I think, and we've tried to cover pros and cons of the owners, so I don't think we've been too unfair or biased in any way here.
Well, I was going to say, Jay, you've been quite quiet, so we've all been reasonable, mate. So I need you to be a bit of a nutter now. What's are FSG done? Stick a fork in them. They're finished. I mean, what's your thoughts? Can they turn this around, or have they burnt too many bridges now?
Well, as you guys rightly mentioned, we've got a week to sort it out. What's the time to now? It's now 10 p.m. We've basically got exactly a week and maybe an hour before the window closes. We need to see some action. What's strange for me, like with the whole FSG thing, is we've basically come at the end of last season or even in pre-season, and it happens every season. So when we came the 2013-2014 season, this past season, we finished second. This past season, we finished fourth. We basically at the cusp of taking the next step and taking the leap to becoming a better team, to becoming a good team. So obviously we say, Klopp goes in and says, I need Virgil van Dijk, I need Naby Keita, I need X, Y, Z, or whatever else. Those are the players that I've identified, and he goes to FSG. So we're always 2 to 3 players away from being a great team. But the problem is every season we don't sign those 2 to 3 players. We sign somebody else that's just going to make up the wage bill or it's going to just cover in at the moment. It's like we don't take that risk. We don't take that thing. Then the next question was, okay, so everybody's waiting for the Champions League qualifier. Now we've got to qualify for the Champions League, and then once we qualify for the Champions League, then we'll be signing the players. A lot of rumors have come out today that certain players have clauses in their contracts that they can sign once a club is in the Champions League or whatever. My question is, how come as soon as we qualify, does everybody know about those clauses? Yet, yesterday, when we weren't qualified at this time, nobody knew about those clauses. So again, it's just like, as you said, it's another PR spin, this, and then obviously today the thing was, our signings are going to depend on who we get in the group.
Well, I was gonna say, Jay, you can't possibly be trying to suggest that stuff is leaked to the media at a timely manner. That can't be where you're going, surely.
Bet £200 million on it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even start me on that £200 million. I think they just said 200 million, but they meant like Zimbabwean dollars
or something like that. So
or M&Ms.
You don't need to be an ITK or whatever it is. You just look at it from a logical point of view and say, but now the goalpost is shifted. But you were going to do this, you're going to do that. The goalpost is shifted. This is shifted. That's shifted. And I know, like a lot of responsibilities also put on Klopp in terms of him saying, these are my targets, these are the players that I want, go and get me those players. And it's important to understand that, because we obviously, a lot of guys are saying we should have transfers, we can't do transfers. I agree, we can't do transfers, we can't do that. It's not that we can't identify the players that we need. That we're doing very well. We're identifying the players that we need. It's just now, these are the players that I need, get me those players in. The next step is where we're struggling at the moment. And that's the biggest disappointment. So everybody knows the players that we need from probably March or April. And a Liverpool transfer doesn't happen where, guys, this player is linked with us. In 2 days' time, he's signed. This player is linked with us. There's the ups and the downs, and he's joining this, and he's like this guy's Instagram and this guy's Twitter. And It's
I hate that. Oh my god!
And then at the end of it, he goes and signs for whoever else and whatever. There
was a couple of years like that with Spurs. Do you remember? Every player we seemed to be linked with turned up at Spurs.
Exactly.
It was like they knew what we were doing before we did. But what was embarrassing from that perspective was, you could argue, when Chelsea did it when Abramovich first took over, anybody good, they just went in and they put a massive offer on the table that was bigger than anybody else's, offered them a load of money, and then left them sat on the bench. That was what Chelsea did. Now, what's upset me about Spurs, mostly because I hate Spurs.
Another one to the list, Phil. Another one to the list.
I hate Spurs. My meds are wearing off now. But I hate Spurs. But what upset me was they're not a big club, and yet they were coming in and taking players that we were negotiating with and we were interested in. And when you look at the stats and stuff that come out later about their wages and the transfer fee, they're not astronomical. They didn't go in and gazump us. They just impressed the club and the player more and managed to get the deal done, which is embarrassing that we couldn't do that.
It's just the speed that we do deals at, and it's something that we're doing at boardroom level that's just clubs are saying, no thanks, not interested.
Well, it's either that, mate, or there's something deliberate going on.
Well, there's a bit of conspiracy theory with that, isn't there? That they leak stuff to the press so a deal falls apart because they got cold feet about paying that much money.
Well, mate, it's impossible for some people not to think that, and I'm trying to be rational there, because you hear all sorts of crazy, stupid things. But it is very hard not to think that. It's like, well, are you doing this deliberately? Well, first time, second time, third time, fourth time. And it's like, well, they can't close these deals out. Like you just said, it's not like these players are going to Spurs for 200 grand a week or whatever. Why the hell can't you close the deal? Why?
I think what scares me a little bit is that, and you can evidence this from all the PR stuff that gets leaked and all that kind of stuff. The owners think we're stupid. As fans, they think we're stupid.
Yes,
I don't think there's any denying that. Now, in this chat right now, we have 3 countries represented by 4 guys of different ages, different nationalities, and everything. Yet we all agree that the next week is probably the most important week of our owners' ownership so far, because they're about to lose a massive, massive majority of the fans if they don't do something in the next week. What concerns me is I don't think they've got that. I don't think they've quite grasped how important this next week is for them. They're certainly not behaving like a club that has.
I couldn't agree more, mate. I got a block from Mr. Henry because of the frigging article. So,
and that's bad form as well, to be fair, because they should. That I read that article. There was no way abusive, and I think he should have been able to take that one on the chin. My blood failed. I still find it hard to believe that actually happened. But
the interesting thing with that is when you post stuff on social media, the accusation is, I'm not a fan of people, and I know you didn't do this, by the way, Asif, just to clarify. I'm not a fan of people yelling at John Henry on Twitter and all this kind of stuff and threats of violence and all this. I'm really anti all of that stuff. That's ridiculous. But the only thing that ever calmed me down about it was thinking, well, to be fair, it's not like he reads it anyway. But the fact that he's blocked you for posting that article would suggest he did read it and he's actively sought you out to block you. Now, that's an interesting fact that, what exactly, if it's him or his representatives, are they trying to gauge the mood of the fans? Why exactly are they looking around Twitter for articles about how they're doing as owners?
Mate, he's a shrewd guy. You can only assume that just because he's saying he's not on there, that he probably most definitely is on there, or he's got guys on there. Because they actually have, they haven't got where they've got without, by being idiots, basically. How are they going to sell this club for $1 billion odd, whenever it is? Whenever the offer's big enough. They obviously, I don't know. It is. You've got a very good point, because the same thing happened with the ticket prices. Where they say, oh my God, they think that we're greedy. But quite a few people thought that they were greedy anyway. They only clicked on the day of that match and the protest. So,
I'm actually quite worried now that they don't understand how big a week this is for them. I never really gave it that much thought until you just raised it there, Phil. Like, I knew how much of a big week it was, but I think I stupidly assumed that was going around the club as well.
But that's what gets me, because of the fact they keep leaking things in a particular way. They do treat us like we're stupid, and that continues to happen to this day. So the natural progression in my mind was, if you think we're stupid and you don't get how we feel about option A, what makes me think that scenario B is going to be any different, that you suddenly grasp how important this week is for you?
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting one. But you think of the Coutinho thing now as well. I mean, I would have put money on the fact that they accepted it on Deadline Day. It still might happen. It still might not happen.
I don't think they can at this point. I think that's the one thing they cannot do is accept that offer.
Surely they know that.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So maybe they are kind of thinking, maybe if all this fuss wasn't being kicked up, that they probably would have done that. So I don't know. It is such a hard one to actually know what they're actually thinking or what they're not.
You've got to question whether this Coutinho stuff, and this is going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. So anybody who disagrees this listening to the pod, feel free to shout at me on Twitter. You will not be the first. Is this Coutinho scenario benefiting them? Is all this drama quite useful? Because then if they do retain Coutinho, they can pass him off as that whole, it's like a new signing. Yeah. He's rejuvenated 5 years. Are we doing the classic sleight of hand trick here? Is this a magician's trick to keep us watching what's going on with Coutinho and not paying attention to the fact there's no transfers going on?
It's a tough call because from my point of view, I was thinking, I've thought of them as two separate entities all the way through the transfer window. The players we get in and keep Coutinho, and I suppose I have said to myself, you know what, they deserve some credit if they keep Coutinho. But I didn't, I suppose, link the two together and say, do they deserve credit keeping Coutinho, and think that that's going to be enough to satisfy us if they don't get the signings, because it by far and away is not.
No way.
Well, I always thought that they were going to sell Coutinho £150 million and use that money on Van Dijk and Keita. That was what I thought all along. To be fair, I don't actually know what I think at the minute. It's getting also confusing. But it wouldn't have put it past me that they actually did that and thought that, because when we were first linked to both of them, I thought, hang on, FSG, £70 million for Van Dijk or whatever odd for Keita. That's not like them, because normally it's always 30 odd mil or whatever it is net transfer wise.
We're very good at picking out the deals, aren't we? But we're not very good at getting big transfers across the line. We can find bargains pretty easily and take a bit of a chance on them. But I've yet to see a scenario where we've identified a Madrid player, a Barcelona player, a PSG player, a Monaco player, and said, "There's the money you want for them. Bang on the table, get the contract signed."
No, but you say that though, mate. But then look at Southampton. I mean, why didn't we sign Van Dijk 2 years ago, or or Mane when he was at Red Bull or wherever he came from? It's like, well, the scouting's absolutely. I mean, they haven't even proved it good in that sense, to be honest.
No. In fact, you're absolutely right. And in fact, we've actually just got across the line now. Do you guys remember how much Salah was when we were first linked with him?
13.
I mean, I'm going back X amount of years now. He was 13 million when we like 11, 12, 13. What we're saying is he was definitely less than 15 million, right? We've ended up paying 30 to 35, depending on the different figures. A couple of years later, when he's older and okay, yes, he's more experienced now and he's definitely bringing more to the table. But if we're identifying players back then and then missing out on them and then buying them for double the price a few years later, surely that's not very good business either.
Okay, we'll explain this one then. Conor Plianka, right? We were so desperate to sign him, allegedly. Ian Air went out on his Harley or whatever to, I don't know, Russia or whatever he did. But then 6 months later or whatever it was, he was free. But we didn't go in for him.
Yeah, he went to Sevilla, didn't he, after Liverpool?
It's very odd.
Yeah, how for me that just didn't add up. It just doesn't add up. We try so hard apparently to sign him, and only a few months later, to be fair, I don't even think we went for anybody else instead. So yeah, it's just really weird. There's too many things that just don't add up under this.
It's all
then
we had
Teixeira as well. Remember?
We did.
Apparently, there was no amount of money that was going to buy him. The owner didn't want to sell. Blah blah blah. It was crazy money. Blah, and then the Chinese just came in. Bing bang bosh. Done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look, there does come a time where you do have to sometimes pay a little bit over the odds and put your money on the table and get the player you want, and that's somewhere we're completely lacking. I agree on that one.
And they did it for Lovren. They paid £20 million for Lovren, yet Southampton are still upset with us. It's something serious.
It's the way that we're behaving, isn't it? I mean, I've made this point clear on Twitter a few times, so I don't mind saying it. I was doing some work with Ajax back in the day, and I can honestly tell you, I mean, I've got a couple of friends that still work there, and the opinion of Liverpool at board level and even lower down is not an opinion of my club that I would like other top European clubs to hold of us. And that has been caused entirely by our attitude to negotiations, how we conduct ourselves in the boardroom. Now, I know we've had a few changes since then, but it doesn't sound like Edwards is doing a much better job than anybody else. I mean, Ian Air was always getting the slap before. Edwards seems to be getting it this year. I think the thing that's added to the confusion even more, and Craig, I'm coming straight to you with this because we had this conversation off air, and I know you're delighted by it. What the hell were Klopp's comments about?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this. I see them as a little bit. I don't want to say the word two-faced, and that's the word I did use off air, but they annoyed me a little bit because over the past 18 months, all we've heard out of Klopp is that, and I love Klopp. Please don't think this is a dig at Klopp, because I literally love that man more than any other manager we've had outside of Kenny Dalglish. Love the man. But I'm a bit disappointed to hear him suddenly say that players want the Champions League. Look, we knew this. We're not fools. We did know this. But for him to come out and say now that players want the Champions League and it's what they talk about when they go to contracts. 18 months ago, it was, no, they don't talk about these things. And if they did, we wouldn't want to sign them because that's not the type of player that we want that's just obsessed with Champions League football. Whereas now, this is the first thing. Now, he did make a good point where he said, well, it's your job to get us there when he was talking to these players. But it just seemed a little bit off to me, and it's one of the very few things I've picked up on with Klopp that I wasn't that impressed with, if I'm being honest.
Are we all assuming that comment about Champions League football before signing a contract extension was aimed at Emma Can? Does anybody else, any ideas on who that might be?
To be fair, though, they should just pay the fucking man what he wants at this point.
Yeah. But is that true? Is it true that he's waiting for Champions League? Did he want assurances of Champions League football?
Well, we'll know soon enough. If he signs in the next month, we'll probably know that was the case.
If he does, he deserves a slap because, I'm sorry, he's only a young player. He's still got a lot to develop. He's going to be a good player. He frustrates the life out of me most of the time, if I'm completely honest, because there's so much more in him, and he just...
There's more worried about his hair.
No, well, yeah, but he has this
never
terrible
have
habit.
To worry about that fucking hair. That's magnificent.
If he loses the ball, he just charges after them and always fouls them and usually gives away a yellow card, definitely gives away a free kick. That drives me mad about him. It's like he has a flash of red and just loses the plot.
He can shield the ball better than anybody I've ever seen, though.
Yeah, I think what annoys me about this scenario, if it is this scenario, I mean, we're speculating that it was Emma. It was the first person I thought of when I heard Klopp say it, is that if a German youth international, yes, okay, he's coming through to the first team now, he's getting some chances, but ultimately he's still a young man. If he is in a position where he's trying to say to Liverpool, I'm not sure about signing a new contract with you, Liverpool, until you guarantee that you're in the Champions League, you've got to question a little bit of his professionalism, in my opinion. Yes, okay, there's the fantasy of the Champions League, but show a bit more loyalty, please.
Couldn't agree more, if that is true. I mean, yeah, I thought that as well. I mean, is he talking about Chan or is he talking about somebody else? Yeah, I mean, if that is the situation, then yeah, I mean, like I said, he's had a good last 3 or 4 months, but before that, he was absolutely friggin' atrocious, injury or not. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, couldn't agree with you more on that. Just going back on Klopp, though, I mean, have you guys noticed how I think it was just before, the Audi Cup or something, we had a press conference, and all of a sudden he started talking about the owners. Yeah. Even I have bosses. And it's kind of since then that his dialogues had to change somewhat away from the, okay, we've got deals done, we've got this done. One would think that, maybe he's seeing FSG for what they are, sort of thing. Because before that, he was very pro them.
I have a great relationship with the owners. We were in constant communication, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and now it's changed from that, as you've said, to
just like Rodgers, because Rodgers was exactly the same. Oh, I email John Henry every day or whatever it was, till at the end it was Balotelli's being forced on me. He couldn't actually say it. Just like me at work, at my manager, I can't stand there and say bad things about my manager or contradict her opinion to make her look bad, because ultimately I'll get the sack or she'll make my life very difficult. And you can see Klopp loves Liverpool, and you just get a feeling sometimes that he's kind of also perhaps stuck between a rock and a hard place, where there were those rumours that were that he's not happy. FSG are trying to get him to sign cheaper alternatives to Keita and Van Dijk, and he's digging his heels in and saying, nah, these other players we're getting, or we're not getting anybody else. Kind of making his point in that sense. So I think his comments were strange. I agree with you, because I remember his previous comments as well. But we just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It just doesn't feel quite right at the minute.
Jay, I made the point the other day that there is literally not another manager on the planet that I would rather have as Liverpool manager than Jurgen Klopp. Now, for the question I wanted to ask you, because I've been thinking this for a while, if I'm honest, what was the point in bringing in the manager that we all wanted, a manager who's passionate about winning things and about driving a club forward, and then not supporting them financially? Because surely Jurgen wouldn't have joined if he thought that was the case. So are we to assume that they've not been entirely truthful with Jurgen Klopp when he's joined the club, or what do you think is going on?
Yeah, I agree 100% in terms of there's not another manager in the world that I have with us right now. Jurgen Klopp is all Liverpool. He's committed to the city. He's taken to the way of life of the city. He understands the club. He's taken time to understand the club. He understands the club. He gets the fans. He gets everything. And he's really completely invested in this Liverpool project. And as you say, the question needs to be asked. So when he had discussions with FSG about the job, surely transfer budget, those sort of things would come up. Or did FSG look at him and see what he achieved at Borussia Dortmund and at Mainz in terms of getting the best out of players? And I think he is very good at that. And we're at a point now where he's probably got the absolute maximum out of certain players in our squad. Certain players are playing at their absolute peak. But you cannot have your players playing at 100% for 38 games in a season. They're going to go up and they're going to go down. I think 2 weeks ago, before the Hoffenheim tie, before the first leg, he said they are a very good team, and the squad that we have right now will need to perform at 100% for us to be able to progress through. So he obviously is good at getting the absolute best out of players, giving them the chance, giving them time to prove themselves, and he's got that. But I think he's reached a point now where he's basically, this is the absolute limit I'm getting out of these players, and guys, I need you to support me and I need you to back me. And
I agree.
Yeah, and I think the frustration is starting to show a bit in terms of saying, because the comments that he's making are just not like, normally, how's the transfers going? Oh, we've got nothing to say about that or anything like that. It's very quiet or whatever. Whereas now he's come and said, no, the squad is fine and the squad can carry on and the squad can handle this. And this, it's just different. Definitely something's not 100% between in terms of what he wants and what he's been sort of offered in terms of saying, all right, well, you want a player for 70 million, go and find a player for 30 million and we'll fund it. Otherwise, yeah. So it's, yeah.
I agree. No, I agree.
It's the same thing about moving the goalposts that you said earlier, mate.
Yeah.
Could they have done the same thing with Klopp?
Quite possibly. Listen, I'm going to ask one final question of everybody because I've been thinking this all day. I mean, I've been extremely positive, obviously, after yesterday. I know there's still frustration lingering over FSG and transfers and everything else, but now we are back in the Champions League proper. We're there. We've got the draw. We know our fixtures. We know when they're happening, even if Craig's booking flights to the wrong games. We know.
I never make mistakes, Phil. Shush.
But we know what is going on in that respect. Ball's on the block now, fellas. Craig, I'm coming to you first. Champions League, now we've got it. How many players do you think we're going to see come into the club over the next week?
Oh, God. It's a tough question, isn't it? It's one or two is my answer, but I probably believe deep down in the back of my mind, one. I will see one and two out. Two, maybe three out.
Yeah, I can see that. Asif, what about you, mate? Where are you? Yeah, definitely.
Mate, I'm going to be extremely positive, and I think we're going to sign 3 players.
Good man.
I'm hoping we are, and they're going to be VVD, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and the last minute deal for Naby Keita.
God, Asif, that'd be amazing. I'd be all over that.
Very tasty.
Well, that's the worst thing. It shouldn't be. That should be.
No, it'd be great though, wouldn't it? It would be great. I mean, Jay, do you think there's any chance of that happening, mate? Or are you feeling a little bit more pessimistic?
I'm going for 3 players as well. 3 players,
good man.
And I'll be happy. Exactly those 3: VVD, Naby Keita, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. And again, it's a whole PR spin now. So keep in Coutinho. That's a new player, another new player. So you're gonna put 3.5.
He's joining our new signing, James Milner, in midfield.
That's it. New left back, Alberto Moreno.
No, listen, for me, I'm probably going smack bang in the middle. I'm going to, I know My gut is telling me to. I don't actually think it's going to be Keita and Van Dijk. I think we will get Van Dijk. I don't think we're going to get Keita. I don't know who the second signing is. I really don't. But I just think there's somebody else going to come out of left field. But I agree, Phil has to be kept. I don't think there's any two ways about that. But listen, I mean, last night was awesome. So if we have a few more Champions League games like that, we'll piss through that group. We'll all be knackered. Probably have heart failure. But we'll create some amazing memories while doing it. So yeah, I think it's exciting times ahead. Let's see what happens over next week. We'll stay positive, Craig. You careful of those splinters on your arse, mate, sat on the fence.
I'm going to stay on the fence, but you know what? Every day that goes by, or every hour at this point that goes by, I'm looking at fucking television, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at Twitter going, when is this first transfer going to break? Like, when is it going to happen? When are we going to get the ball rolling? Surely it can't be too long.
I think the phrase you're looking for, mate, is TikTok.
Absolutely.
Self-promotion. You're a fucking self-promotion king. You know what? I got to give it to you. I thought I was bad, but you are the king.
Mate, it's going to be it's either going to be TikTok or either way, it's going to be TikTok boom on the 1st of September. That's probably the name of my next article, I think.
I hope it's not. I hope it's TikTok. Whew, just in time.
Mate, if TikTok is describing our transfer window, then I'm just hoping it doesn't end up like Big Ben, just being silenced for 3 years.
And a bunch of bellends standing outside my hands. But no, but the point being, I think, you know what, I would love the abuse on the 1st of September, because I know there's idiots out there that will say, whatever they want about, X, Y, and Z. But we just, and if it means having those 3 players, mate, they can abuse till.
I couldn't agree more with you. Genuinely, as I said, I'm not a massive fan of FSG, but if they pull off 3 decent signings and we strengthen the squad and we keep Phil, I'm not going to be complaining about them. No,
mate, all dues to them. There are some idiots out there. I think there are some people out there that actually, for whatever reason, actually don't want them to do it just to have them out, which makes absolutely no sense. They are the crazy people out there.
Couldn't agree more. On that note, I hope you crazy people have enjoyed listening to us this evening. We've got a big game again at the weekend, so exciting times. Back in the Champions League. We know what the draw is, and I for one am pretty excited. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you to our sponsor, painsolutions.lim.co.uk, and have a great night, Reds. Up the Reds.